الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونؤمن به ونتوكل عليه نعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلله فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله تبارك وتعالى عليه وعلى آله وأصحابه وبارك وسلم تسليما كثيرا كثيرا أما بعد فقال الإمام أبو عبد الله محمد بن إسماعيل الجعفي البخاري حدثنا آدم بن أبي إياس قال حدثنا شعبة عن عبد الله بن أبي الصفر وإسماعيل عن الشعبي عن عبد الله بن عمرو رضي الله عنهما عن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قال المسلم من سلم المسلمون من لسانه ويده والمهاجر من هجر ما نهى الله عنه. This is the hadith narrated by Imam Bukhari rahimahullah. It is the 10th hadith in the book for the chapter of Imaan. And Imam Bukhari rahmatullah alayhi has brought this hadith under the chapter of Iman to show that a person cannot be a complete believer until he has completed the qualities of Iman. And then he begins to enumerate the qualities of Iman. And from amongst those qualities is the quality that behaving and holding oneself in such a manner, in such a way, that no one is harmed by someone. Keeping oneself in such a way that no one is harmed by him. So the hadith is Al-Muslimu man salim al-Muslimuna min lisanihi wa yadihi. A true Muslim is he that other Muslims are safe and secure from the vice of his tongue and of his hands. And the muhajir, the true muhajir, one who migrates, is he who leaves behind that which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has forbidden. Imam Bukhari rahmatullah alayhi quotes this hadith with a chain of narration that has 6 people between him and the Prophet ﷺ. This type of chain of narration, because it has 6 people, it is known as Sudasi. It's from, you see, As-Sadis, which means the 6th one. Sudasi, as-sanad al-Sudasi means there are 6 people between the Muhaddith and Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Who are those 6 people? Who are those 6 people between Imam Bukhari and our Prophet alayhi salatu wa salam? The first one is Abu al-Hasan Adam ibn Abi Iyas. And this was the Ustad of Imam Bukhari rahmatullah alayhi for this hadith. He was originally from Khurasan. Khurasan of that time is the area that has now been divided into three countries. The lower part of it is what is known as northern Afghanistan. And one part of it is in Iran, and the other part of it is in Turkmenistan. He was from there. He grew up in Baghdad, and he quoted a hadith. He memorized a hadith from all the mashayikh of Baghdad. Then he traveled to Kufa, Basra, Hijaz, Misr, Sham. Then he settled down in a place called Asqalan, which is in Sham, which was in Syria of that time. And he passed away in the year 220. Muhaddithin have said that this was كان من خيار عباد الله تعالى. He was one of the best servants of Allah of his time, meaning he was a great waliullah. And for his work as a job, he was a warraq. Warraq means somebody who writes books. Yani, he was the one who would, do the writing, do the calligraphy for the books. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had given him a long life. He passed away, some have said at the age of 88, some have said over 90. And he became the ustad of Imam Bukhari, of Imam Muslim, of Imam Tirmidhi, Imam Abu Dawood, Sajistani, and other many hundreds and thousands of students took hadith from him. He quotes this hadith from his ustad, Imam Shu'bah ibn al-Hajjaj. Shu'bah ibn al-Hajjaj is known as one of the people who was given the title of Amir al-Mu'mineen fil Hadith. Yani, he was the leader of the Muslims in the knowledge of Hadith. He was not only a hafiz of Hadith, a person who had memorized hundreds of thousands of ahadith, but he was, when Shu'bah quoted a hadith, it was said that this hadith is, his quoting it makes that hadith a hujjah. And Imam Shu'bah, is mentioned about him that he grew up in Wasit, which is Iraq, and then he traveled to Basra, and all the Muslims of that time, they formed a consensus that he is our Imam in Hadith. That's why Sufyan Thawri rahimahullah, who was either a tabi'i or from the atba'u tabi'in, he is the first one to give him the title of Amir al-Mu'mineen fil Hadith. And Sufyan Thawri rahmatullahi himself was a very big Imam of Hadith and of fiqh. Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal rahmatullahi, he used to say, كَانَ أُمَّةً وَحْدَهُ فِي هَذَا الشَّأْنِ. Shu'bah, being one person, was like a whole ummah in himself. Like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says about Ibrahim alayhi salam, إِنَّ إِبْرَاهِيمَ كَانَ أُمَّةً قَانِتًا لِلَّهِ حَنِيفًا. Ibrahim was an ummah. He wasn't just one person, but he was like a whole community of people. So that pertains to the tasks that he did, the things that he achieved. It pertains to the qualities that he had, the inner strength that he had, and the impact that he had on mankind. It was like, it wasn't a single person, but it was a whole community of people within that one person. And being such a great muhaddith, what's very interesting is that he was not able to speak clearly. He was, in Arabic there's a term called al-thagh. Al-thagh means somebody who cannot pronounce certain letters like seen properly. So he had a speech impediment. Notwithstanding that, he was the biggest muhaddith of his time. Which tells us that a person doesn't have to be physically perfect in order to be a perfect Muslim. In order to go forward in deen, you don't have. You see, deen is not about إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يَنْظُرُ إِلَىٰ صُوَرِكُمْ. Allah is not looking at your shapes. He's not looking at your physical appearances or attributes. Musa alayhi salam himself, he had a speech impediment. He was a Nabi of Allah. And in the books of hadith, in all the books of hadith, you will find the mention of Shu'bah ibn al-Hajjaj. And whenever you see the name of Shu'bah mentioned by itself, it means Shu'bah ibn al-Hajjaj. Shu'bah, rahimahullah, narrates from his ustad, Abdullah ibn Abi Safar. Who was he? He was, they say he was from Hamdan or Hamadan. Some people say he was from Kufa. He passed away in the lifetime of Marwan ibn Muhammad. And we don't find too many details about him, except for the fact that many muhaddithin have quoted hadith from him. He was a thiqah. He was from the highest level of narrators of hadith. Then, There is Ismail ibn Abi Khalid. Ismail ibn Abi Khalid, he was a tabi'i. He quoted a hadith from a number of Sahaba. Amongst them was Anas ibn Malik radiallahu anhu. And he also quoted from other tabi'is. He was known as Al-Mizan. He was known as the scale. Yani, people used to turn to him for his judgments regarding what is correct, what is incorrect. And people used to turn to him regarding his judgments, you see, in matters of hadith as well, which can be quoted, which cannot be quoted. He was known as Al-Mizan. And for a living, what he did for a living, I'm mentioning to you these things so you know a little bit about who these great people were. Just a little glimpse. We don't have time to go into too many details about their lives. If you were to open up the life of every one of them, you would be shocked and amazed at what kind of amazing people, you see, what kind of mountains of faith and taqwa and piety and sifat every one of these people were. For a living, he used to grind flour. He was a taham. Very simple, very ordinary means of making a living. Yet he is, you see, one of the great muhaddithin of his time. And he is quoting hadith from Sahaba as well. So this also tells us something, that in order to have a status, one does not necessarily have to have a certain kind of profession. Look, there were many people of his time who probably made a lot more money than him, who probably had many other kinds of professions which are known in society as notable professions. But you will not find them mentioned in any book. They're not mentioned today. And these people, even with their simple means of living, with their very, very basic, means of earning, these people are remembered in books and have been remembered. Their name has been taken in books for over 1,000 years. Can you imagine? But this hadith, he is not quoting it from a sahabi. He is quoting it from another tabi'i. And that tabi'i is Imam Sha'bi rahimahullah. And Sha'bi is a very great muhaddith and a very great tabi'i. His name was Amr. And this person had the honor of meeting 500 Sahaba of Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So he was one of the great tabi'is. And he was such a person that when he quoted a hadith, even if he did not take the name of the Sahabi who told him the hadith, his hadith was a hujjah. He was at that level. Even if he said, Qala Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, without mentioning the Sahabi, his word would be taken as a hujjah. Imam Qatada, who was from the students of Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu, he was also a student of Imam Sha'bi. And many tabi'in, of course hundreds of tabi'ins, became students of him. He was designated as the Qadi of Kufa in his time. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also gave him a long life. And you will find, if you pick up the seerah of Imam Sha'bi, you will find that he was a very, very pious man, very God-fearing person. Great zahid, great abid of his time. But at the same time, he did not let this make him antisocial. Some people, you see, our elders, they have a saying in Urdu, they say, "Isko taqwa ka haza ho gaya." When he got so much taqwa, he couldn't handle it. Everything comes out at once. But he was not like that. Sometimes this happens to people. They start praying salat, but now he thinks that he is now in place of Junaid Baghdadi in this world. Somebody starts fasting, they think that now they're too good to speak to people. Imam Sha'bi was not like that. He kept himself very down to earth. He would laugh, he would joke, he would tell jokes to people, he would make people laugh. And he used to be amazed at this great tabi'i, this student of 500 Sahaba, you see him sitting here making us all laugh. So that's what makes these people, you see, so interesting to study. We learned the different qualities and different sifat, and we learned how they were complete individuals. They were not just taking one thing and holding on to it and thinking that bus, they have everything in the world. They were very complete, solid, whole individuals. Imam Shafi rahmatullahi is quoting this hadith from Abdullah ibn Amr ibn al-As radiallahu ta'ala anhu, the great Sahabi. He's the son of Amr ibn al-As radiallahu anhu, who was the governor of Misr, of Egypt. And the fact is that Amr ibn al-As radiallahu ta'ala anhu, we hear about Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu being the greatest muhaddith of the Sahaba. And Abdullah ibn Amr ibn al-As radiallahu anhu, he says that because he spent more time with Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, so he actually had more ahadith memorized than Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu. But he says the difference between me and Abu Hurairah is that I didn't used to write, and Abu Hurairah used to write everything down. So, khair. He's a Sahabi. What is there to say about this great Sahabi? Many accomplishments, many achievements. One of the great ulama of the Sahaba, one of the close Sahaba of Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. This was the sanad. Interesting thing about this sanad. Imam Bukhari rahmatullahi alayhi has quoted this hadith from his teacher, who is Adam ibn Abi Iyas. Now we know that Imam Bukhari, we've heard that Imam Bukhari had the strictest conditions in his hadith. And he did, overall. But it does not mean that other muhaddithin were also not strict in their hadith. In fact, it's not so much a matter of being strict or being lenient. It's actually a matter of the methodology with which you analyze the sanad. This is a very complex and a very refined science. The science of rijal and the science of the chains of narrations. So, an interesting fact is that this Rawi, Adam ibn Abi Iyas, he fulfilled the conditions of Imam Bukhari rahmatullahi alayhi, but there were other muhaddithin that were not satisfied with him. Imam Muslim rahmatullahi alayhi didn't take from him. He said, he doesn't fulfill my conditions. Imam Abu Dawud didn't take from him. He said, no, he doesn't fulfill my conditions either. And Imam Muslim and Imam Abu Dawud are both students of Imam Bukhari. So this sometimes is a for some reason, I don't know why, I fail to understand why people look at Bukhari as if it is the only book of Sahih Ahadith. This is not the case. There are many books that have Sahih Ahadith, and there is a very large collection of Sahih Ahadith that are available to the Ummah, and all of this is a source of knowledge for us. Some people make this grave mistake of saying, well, if it's not in Bukhari, I don't take it. Well, what do you know? This is a sign that he knows nothing about Bukhari. This is one of the biggest daleels, proofs that this person knows nothing about the ilm of hadith. And for some reason, I come across these people very often. But that's another story. The method of the hadith. I have told you in the past that there are two parts to a hadith when we study a hadith. One is the sanad, the chain of narration, which we have looked at very briefly. And the second part is the matan, the actual words that were mentioned in the hadith. Al-Muslimu man salim al-Muslimuna min lisanihi wa yadihi. In this hadith, Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is defining a true Muslim. A true Muslim is he from whom others are safe, others are secure from the evil, from the vice of his tongue and of his hands. In order for a person to be a complete Muslim, he must behave in such a way that people are safe from the evil of his tongue and of his hands. What are the evil of the tongue and of the hands? There are many evils of the tongue. Lying about somebody, slandering about somebody, insulting somebody, backbiting about somebody, spreading rumors about somebody. These are all examples of vices of the tongue. The vices of the hand are also many. Damaging somebody physically, hurting somebody, damaging their property, or committing any kind of action that is going to result in somebody being harmed or somebody's things being harmed. Writing something about somebody, taking any action that is going to result in somebody being harmed. Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is saying that a true Muslim is somebody who lives in such a way that other people are safe from his evils. So what it means is that in order to perfect and complete our Islam, we must guard our tongue and guard our actions, guard our bodies. To say that I am a Muslim and I am a complete Muslim because I worship, because I perform this many nafil salawat, because I fast this many non-obligatory fasts, because I do this, I've given this much sadaqah. Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam here is not defining a Muslim by his good actions. A Muslim is not just someone who does good actions, but a Muslim is also somebody who, you see, who is a source of comfort to other people. He is a source of ease to other people. The people around him are not uncomfortable with him. In fact, it is one of the signs of the Day of Judgment that people will be so worried and paranoid about each other that people will start respecting others just out of the worry that they might be harmed by him if they don't respect him. وَأُكْرِمَ الرَّجُلُ مَخَافَةَ شَرِّهِ. That people will start respecting other people, showing them respect, showing them honor, just because they're worried that if they don't, he's going to do something against them. So they give him a false, a fake sense of honor. But a true Muslim is somebody who behaves in such a way that nobody has any reason to be concerned about him. When he is around, comes another hadith, Al-mu'minu wal-mu'minu man ammanahu al-nasu or man aminahu al-nasu ala dima'ihim wa amwalihim. A mu'min is that person that people feel comfortable with in entrusting him with their lives and with their wealth. And when they are around, they feel secure. A Muslim is not that person that when he's around, people feel insecure, or people feel at danger, or people feel threatened. So the lesson in this hadith is that we must speak in such a way, use our tongues in such a way, that people don't feel that they have to worry about what this person is going to say behind their back or to their face. And if there's a person who is like that, we're always worried, we don't know what he's going to say, just be careful. It means that there is something lacking in our Iman. This reflects directly on our Iman. Same thing with our actions. The hand represents any action that we do. When he's saying the vice of the hand, it means any action that we do, it must be done in such a way that people should not feel that they're in threat of being harmed by this action. This hadith is actually a very big eye-opener, a big lesson for numerous kinds of Muslims. First of all, those Muslims who are basing their Islam only on their ibadat. Meaning that they have ibadat, therefore their Islam is complete. No. It is also a big lesson for those Muslims who feel that they can get away with saying what they want and doing what they want in regards to other people, and that this will not affect their status in the sight of Allah. This is not correct. No matter how religious a person is, nobody has the right to harm somebody else with his tongue. Now, someone might say that, well, in this hadith, only the word Muslimun is mentioned. Al-Muslimu man salim al-Muslimun. So, it means that it's okay if we harm non-Muslims? Saying no. The word Muslim has been used here because a Muslim usually stays with Muslims. And they are the first people that could potentially be harmed by him. That's why Muslimun has been mentioned here. Otherwise, this hadith is general for all mankind. This hadith applies to all of mankind. And all of mankind must be safe from his evils, from the evils of his actions. And Muslim has not been mentioned here to mean that, oh, it's okay if we harm Muslims, non-Muslims with our tongues or with our actions. No. And this hadith, a very beautiful, point in this hadith is that Al-Muslimu, The word Muslim has three root letters, Sin, Lam and Mim. And the word Salima also has three root letters, Sin, Lam and Mim. So he's saying that a Muslim is somebody who has silm in him, peace in him. Silm, it means peace. It means safety. Salama. So if a Muslim, the word Muslim has salama in it, then people should be silent from him. He is calling himself a Muslim, he has a label of a Muslim, yet people are being harmed by him. It means something is wrong with this kind of Islam that he has. And in the past we have gone over, you see, in past durus, we have talked about some of the harms of the tongue. We've talked about backbiting in a lot of detail. We've talked about, you see, spreading rumors. We've talked about lying. We've talked about many things, and many things still remain. But we've covered some of the major aspects of the tongue, of how the tongue can be, we see, such a harmful tool, such a harmful device, while it can also be a helpful one. And the thing about the tongue is, like the Sha'ir says, he says, جَرَاحَاتُ السِّنَانِ لَهَا الْتِيَامُ وَلَا يَلْتَامُ مَا جَرَحَ اللِّسَانُ. He says the wounds of a sword can heal, but the wounds of a tongue don't heal. Sometimes a person says something with one word, he utters one word, that it breaks a person's heart forever. Sometimes a person says one harsh word that completely, you see, breaks a person's heart and hurts his feelings, and now this person is hurting for a long time. That's why it's mentioned in hadith that sometimes a person says one word that he's not even paying attention to. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not like that word. And in fact, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is so displeased by that word that he said, or by that sentence that he said, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala puts a seal of anger on that person till Yawm al-Qiyamah. That now no matter what you do, I'm going to be angry with you. Can you imagine? That word has such a high impact. And sometimes a person says one word or a sentence, it is so beloved to Allah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala becomes so pleased with it that Allah puts a stamp of His pleasure on that person that I will be pleased with you until Yawm al-Qiyamah. إِنَّ الْعَبْدَ لَا يَتَكَلَّمُ بِالْكَلِمَةِ مِنْ رِضْوَانِ اللَّهِ لَا يُلْقِي لَهَا بَالًا يَكْتُبُ اللَّهُ بِهَا رِضْوَانَهُ إِلَى يَوْمِ يَلْقَاهُ وَإِنَّ الْعَبْدَ لَا يَتَكَلَّمُ بِالْكَلِمَةِ مِنْ سَخَطِ اللَّهِ لَا يُلْقِي لَهَا بَالًا يَكْتُبُ اللَّهُ بِهَا سَخَطَهُ إِلَى يَوْمِ يَلْقَاهُ. So Abu Bakr radiallahu ta'ala anhu used to hold his tongue, and he used to say, هَذَا الَّذِي أَوْرَدَنِيَ الْمَوَارِدِ. If there is something that can destroy me, it is this tongue. To hold his tongue and shake it. Sahaba used to seek the protection of Allah from the evils of their own tongues. And the second thing is our actions, the evils of our actions. People being harmed by our actions. My respected brothers and sisters, if they are present, a person's actions, sometimes we do not have to directly behave in aggression or in violence in order to harm somebody. There are many things that we can do that can harm someone. I'll give you an example. Somebody has two children, and both are his children, both have a right on him. He gives, in front of, both of them are present, and in front of him, he gives one, and he doesn't give the other. Has he hurt the other child, or has he not hurt the other child? Okay? Somebody is poor, and they're starving, they haven't had anything to eat, this person sits in front of him and starts eating. Has he hurt him, or has he not hurt him? So hurting somebody doesn't necessarily mean going and punching him in the face. There are many things that we do, sometimes we don't realize it, but we are hurting somebody with those actions. So we need to assess ourselves more closely. Actions are a little bit more complex than that. So it says, well, I didn't hurt anybody, I didn't hit anybody, I didn't damage anyone's property. Yeah, it's not limited to that. So we need to assess the way we behave. Sometimes a child somebody's son, somebody's daughter. They do something that it completely breaks the heart of the parent. Walking away from them while they're speaking to you. Is this not harming your parents? Not listening to them when they ask you to do something. Not coming home when they tell you to come home. This is not aggression, but your actions are harming people. And sometimes we don't realize how badly we are harming them. Being insensitive to the feelings of our friends and the people around us. Behaving selfishly. Doing things that are obnoxious and annoying. Annoying other people. All of these are things that hurt people. A Muslim is supposed to behave in such a manner that nobody is hurt, not from his tongue and not from his hands. And this is one of the hadith that we need to memorize, and we need to talk about it, and we need to spread this hadith around. And we need to, represent this hadith through our actions. And we should also make people understand, non-Muslims understand, that this is the nature of our religion. The second part of the hadith, Al-Muhajiru man hajara ma naha Allahu anhu. This is a very important part of the hadith. Hijrat means migrating from one place to another place. There are many types of hijrah. In hadith, different kinds of hijrah have been mentioned. There's a hijrah of the person of the rural areas and the hijrah of the person of the city. Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam says that the hijrah of the person of the city, is more valuable in the sight of Allah than the hijrah of a rural person. Why? Because people living in the city, they have more attachments. They have more comforts that they have to leave. There are more things that that they have around them that they have to leave when they're making hijrah. So they get more reward. And then there is hijrah, migrating, for the sake of Allah, migrating for the sake of spreading deen, migrating for the sake of learning deen, migrating for the sake of preserving one's own deen, migrating away from a bad environment. Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam is saying that the true migration is to migrate away from the things that Allah has prohibited. You could be moving from place to place, but if you do not leave the disobedience of Allah, you have not really migrated. A person, for example, travels from one place to another. Let's say, for example, a person goes for Hajj. Alright? This is a safar and this is also a hijrah. But during that safar, he does not decide to leave the disobedience of Allah. He does not decide to leave the sins that he may have been committing before, or the bad habits that he had. His hijrah is incomplete. A person says, the environment around here is very bad. I'm moving to another place. Alright, he's moving to another place. But he does not change himself. So a person who does not make an effort to change himself, he can move to anywhere he wants. That hijrah will not benefit him. So the true emigrant in the sight of Allah, the true muhajir in the sight of Allah, is he who makes hijrah from the things that displease Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, from the things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has prohibited. So that means those beliefs that Allah has prohibited, those actions, those attitudes, those behaviors, all of those kinds of habits that have been prohibited by Allah and, of course, by Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and in Islam in general. Until a person is ready to leave those things, he is not really ready to make hijrah. Same thing applies when we go in the path of Allah. We go for 3 days, we go for 10 days, we go for as much time as we want. But we could be migrating, but if we are not leaving our habits behind, if we are not leaving sins behind, we will not truly benefit from this hijrah. And this, my respected brothers, is a very important thing, especially for the youngsters. There are youngsters that are going through different phases very rapidly in their life. And they're trying different things. And many of them, somewhere inside, they have a zeal, they have a desire to change, to become close to Allah. But my respected brothers and elders, we cannot become close to Allah. That hijrah of ours, not a physical hijrah perhaps, but that spiritual hijrah towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can never ever happen until we first leave sins. If we are not ready to leave our sins, it means we are not ready to be close to Allah. A person can do all the good deeds. We could be doing good deeds on one side. But if we are, if we are committing sins at the same time, then the example of this is like somebody who is taking medication to cure himself, but at the same time, every day he's taking a few drops of poison as well. So the medicine is going to cure certain things, but that medicine is not going to cure the effect of that poison. The poison has its own damage. It's going to destroy him. So we must resolve to leave things, acts of disobedience. We must resolve and be very, very firm and resolute in our decision to leave the disobedience of Allah. And until we are ready to do that, we are not really ready to accept the whole of Islam. We are not really ready to have that rank of being someone who is close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this hadith is making an open announcement for this. Another riwayah, in a riwayah of Ibn Hibban, Al-Muhajiru man hajra as-sayyi'at. The true muhajir is he who leaves all sins. Therefore, a Muslim should regularly be making tawbah from his sins. All kinds of sins. Sins that involve the eyes. Look at what kind of environment we live in. It is so difficult to guard one's gaze in this environment. People that are going to school and going to college and going to work. But my respected brothers, a sin is a sin. Just because we are in an environment of sin does not make it now halal to look at non-mahrams. It is still a sin. It will remain a sin. People wrote to Hassan Basri rahimahullah, saying that we are living in non-Muslim lands, and these non-Muslim women, they open up their, they open up, they uncover their heads, and they're showing, their necks and the upper part of their chest. What should we do? He said, "Isrif basaraka anhunna." Turn your gaze away. Just because they're doing it doesn't mean now it's permissible for you to look at. Controlling the gaze. My respected brothers, if we understood how important controlling the gaze is and how effective controlling your gaze is in protecting your Iman, my respected brothers, it would be so easy for us to guard our gaze. And not guarding the gaze is one of the key factors in ruining our Iman. Sometimes we say, I don't have attention, I don't have concentration in my salat. How can I have concentration in my salat when these eyes have been used in all kinds of haram? That person who does not guard his gaze will never ever feel the pleasure of ibadah. He will not feel the true pleasure of ibadah. So we must make tawbah from this. Similarly, habits. Habits that are displeasing to Allah. Okay, it's a habit. A person is used to it. It doesn't mean it's okay for him to do now. This in itself is not an argument that I'm addicted to something, or I've become, I've just become used to doing this. This is not an argument in itself. Okay, you become used to it. You made one mistake. But don't make the next mistake by continuing that habit. You must break that habit and use whatever means you have to break that habit. Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam told us the story of that person of Bani Israel who killed 99. Then he went to somebody and said, "Look, I've killed 99 people. Is there any way out for me now?" The person said, No, you've gone way too far, way beyond the limits. So he killed him and made it an even 100. Then he went to a alim. He said, "Is there anything? Look, I've killed 100 now. Is there any way?" He said, "Yes, there's a way. But you've got to leave where you are. The place where you're living at, you've got to leave that place because those people are having this impact on you. That environment is having that impact on you. You must change that environment." So he went. He left. And that alim told him, "Go to such and such place, there are pious people there." Which tells us that there can be communities where all the people are pious. And there can be communities where it is actually harmful to live in. And in the meantime, while in brackets, we should all make intention to make this a locality of pious people. Do we have this intention? Don't have this attitude of live and let die. I am praying, I don't care what the others are doing. Make intention that we will make this whole community, this neighborhood, this whole area, an area of piety, of taqwa, that people can come to save their iman. So he went to that place of pious people. And while he was on the way there, angel of death came and took his ruh, and he died. So the angels of rahmah came, and the angels of adab came, Angels of Rahmah said, we want him because he had made tawbah, he had left his home. The angels of Adab said, no, we want him because he didn't reach his destination yet. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent the third angel to be the judge. He says, okay, what you have to do is you have to measure the distance and where he died. And if the distance between him and his old place is closer, then the angel of Adab can take him. And if the distance between him and the place he was going to is closer, then the angels of Rahmah can take him. So it's mentioned in Hadith that when that person had died, he had in fact died closer to his old locality. But look, this is where the Rahmah of Allah comes in. When a person resolves to make sincere tawbah, and resolves to change his life, and resolves to leave the disobedience of Allah, then Allah also favors him. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ordered the earth from this side. Allah ordered the earth that you just stretch out a little bit. And Allah ordered the earth on this side to shrink a little bit. So when the angel measured him, he was actually closer to the area he was going to. So but a person has to resolve to do that, to take steps. We have to take serious steps to make that change, and then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will take care of us. May Allah give us the understanding of this hadith, give us the ability to implement it, and give us the ability to implement what is being required from us in this hadith. Subhanallah wa bihamdihi, subhanallah wa bihamdihi, ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta, astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Subhana rabbika rabbil izzati amma yasifun, wa salamun ala al-mursalin, walhamdulillah. Mm-hmm.